Suffering is a fact of life, but brings us closer to God and molds us further into the image of Jesus. Suffering is only a punishment if you find no meaning or purpose to it. Trust that everything is part of God's plan to bring us closer to salvation. Saint Anna uniting her suffering with Christ can serve as inspiration for us. Anna Schaffer was born in 1882 in the small Bavarian town of Mindelstetten and was a quiet and reserved child who was very devoted to Christ. On the day of her first communion in 1893, 11-year-old Anna had a deeply religious experience. Under the influence of this experience, she wrote a letter to Jesus in which she made him some promises. She told Jesus to do with her what he wanted. She said that if he wills it, she will become an expiatory sacrifice to atone for all offenses committed against him. When Anna was 14, her father passed away, leaving the family in great poverty. So Anna went to work as a maid to help support the family. In 1898, she had a dream where Jesus appeared to her and said her life would include much suffering. He held a rosary in his hands, spoke to her of praying the rosary, and said that she would not become 20 years old and that she'd have to suffer a great deal. She was so troubled by it that she quickly moved to another job, hoping to escape what Jesus said would occur before she was 20. Further jobs followed, and finally in the gamekeeper's cottage in Stamham, she was met with a terrible accident just 2 weeks before her 19th birthday. She was dealing with the linens, boiling them in a large kettle, when the stovepipe came loose. She tried to fix it and scrambled to the tip of the boiling kettle to reach the pipe. That was when she fell in the kettle and scalded both legs up to her knees. She was taken to the hospital and had more than 30 surgical operations performed. Despite many skin grafts and the 30 surgeries, they never healed, and Anna's doctors released her to the care of her mother, confined to her bed for the remainder of her life. She was therefore forced to abandon her long-time dream of entering a religious order, and a life of intense suffering began for Anna. It was during this period of suffering that Anna learned to recognize God's will and accept it with joy. She decided to offer her life and sufferings to God and receive communion every day. She wrote that each time she received communion, she forgot her earthly sufferings, and the longing of her poor soul drew her every moment to adore God, hidden in the Blessed Sacrament. Anna considered her suffering, writing, and ability to knit clothes for her friends the 3 keys by which she could enter heaven. Many people came to visit her for comforting words and to ask for her prayers. Her beatific attitude made her a beloved figure in town, that even her irreligious brother eventually came to her support. In 1910, Anna had another vision of Jesus who told her she would feel the pains of his passion. When she took communion that day, she was touched by 5 rays of fire on her hands, feet, and heart. The stigmata lasted the remainder of her life, causing her pain in those areas, especially on Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays, and feast days. But these developments brought no change in her attitude, as she remained selfless and promised prayers and letters for anyone who wanted them. In 1923, she was permitted to live the events of Good Friday, and her condition got worse. But she was able to write countless letters to the needy and to those who sought her advice, and also did embroidery for churches and chapels. Anna's sufferings increased near the end. In 1925, she was diagnosed with colon cancer, and her paralysis spread to her spine, making it difficult to speak or write. On the morning of October 5th, she received her final Holy Communion and called out to Jesus, saying she lived for him, and passed away minutes later. Since 1929, more than 15,000 miracles attributed to such prayers have been reported. In 1998, 551 miracles allegedly obtained through her intercession were recorded in the parish of Mindelstetten. On October 21st in 2012, she was canonized by Pope Benedict XVI. She is a patron saint of disabled and bedridden people and accident victims. Can you imagine yourself in Anna's position? Would you be happy to be confined to your bed for the rest of your life? Of course, Anna suffered very much, but she wanted nothing more than to emulate the suffering of the Lord. She eventually united her suffering to his, rather than fighting against it. We have all heard that the best way to handle suffering is to offer it to God as atonement for our sins and the sins of the world. But for the majority of us, that is such a difficult ask. When faced with suffering, the best we can do is pray for God's graces and ask Him to help us offer it up. Anna couldn't do it alone, and neither can we. Even if your suffering is all internal, it's a burden that is crying out for the Lord's help. Anna had to also give up her dreams of joining religious life. The same is true for us. Maybe we have a gift, such as playing an instrument or acting, that we believe we should have done more with in our life. But none of that matters because the Lord will always light the way for us to use the gifts with which He's endowed us, regardless of our situation. All we got to do is, just like Anna, open our hearts and souls to His plan, even if it's a bit different from what we expected. It's in the suffering that we draw close to God, because when we do that, we get to truly live in Him.